Hello hockey fans, and welcome back to another video. Over the last few seasons, the National Hockey League has seen a substantial growth in the number of younger players in its ranks. Thanks to the league's recent shift towards speed and skill, seeing a team dress several players in their teens isn't uncommon. Under the current rules, players are only eligible to suit up in the league if they turn 18 years old on or before September 15th of that season. However, one player would make even these teenagers look like seasoned vets in comparison. This is the story of Bep Guidolin, the youngest NHL player in league history. In order to tell this historic tale, allow me to take you back all the way to 1942. When fancy suits and colourful frocks were the outfit of choice, Casablanca had just premiered in New York City, and Bing Crosby's White Christmas was the best-selling song of the year. The United States had recently joined their Canadian neighbours and entered the Second World War after the Japanese attack on Pearl Harbor in December 1941. With men from all over the country ready to take up arms and defend both their country's freedom and the entire world from the growing threat of fascism. Weren't expecting a history lesson in a hockey video, were you? It's all relevant though, trust me. Among those ready to fight were a number of National Hockey League players, including such stars as Sid Abel, Sil Apps, Doug Harvey, Hap Day and Tiny Thompson, just to name a few. Though these NHL superstars were willing to put their playing careers on hold and fight the good fight, all these players heading overseas at once caused problems for the NHL, as the league was now missing many of its best players. This caused the quality of hockey on display to be significantly watered down, not to mention the missing manpower from each team's roster, which needed to be replaced. NHL teams had to find any way they could to fill the gaps on their rosters, or watch the league fall apart before their very eyes. Which brings us to the protagonist of our tale. Armand Guidolin, nicknamed Bep by his mother, meaning baby in Italian, had spent the first half of the year with the Oshawa Generals of the Ontario Hockey Association, where he had scored 17 points in 21 games and helped lead the Generals to an appearance in the Memorial Cup Finals. This impressive season got the attention of the Boston Bruins, who were in desperate need of replacements on their roster after many of their top players, including every member of their famous Kraut line of Woody Dumart, Bobby Bauer and Milt Schmidt, left to serve in World War II. Desperate times call for desperate measures, and when the Bruins saw Bep play, they knew what they had to do. So they added the teenager to their roster for the upcoming 1942-43 season. On November 12th, 1942, Bep Guidolin took to the ice in his NHL debut as the Boston Bruins took on the Toronto Maple Leafs in Toronto. At just 16 years and 11 months old, Guidolin had stamped his name into the record books, as he had just become the youngest player to ever play in a National Hockey League game. The Canadian forward would end up going scoreless in his debut and have a blank sheet of zeros across the stat sheet as the hometown Maple Leafs took the game by a score of 3-1. Despite a pretty quiet night for Guidolin, the circumstances in which the league found itself during the war, coupled with the Bruins' need to bring unconventional players onto their roster, had allowed him to become the first and only 16-year-old to take to the ice in the best league in the world. Now I know what you're thinking. Well, what happened to Guidolin following his historic debut? Well, Guidolin spent the rest of the season with Boston and made a pretty good first impression, as he scored 22 points in 42 games during his rookie year. The Canadian forward would earn a spot on the Bruins roster for the following season and score 42 points in 47 games before turning 18 years old and having to miss the 1944-45 season due to his own military service in World War II. When he returned from overseas, Guidolin would play another 7 seasons in the NHL, split between the Bruins, the Detroit Red Wings, and the Chicago Blackhawks, finishing his NHL career with 278 points in 519 games. At 27 years old, Guidolin could easily have stuck around the league for many more years and continued to add to his career numbers, but Guidolin was known as an avid supporter of the creation of a players' union, which left owners around the league pretty hesitant to sign him, and is what ultimately led to his early exit from the league. After 9 years in the Bigs, Guidolin would then spend 7 seasons bouncing around a variety of minor leagues, including a 3-year stint with the Ottawa Senators of the Quebec Hockey League, before hanging up his skates and retiring in 1961, almost 20 years after his debut. Guidolin's career in hockey wasn't quite done yet though, as the Canadian would move behind the bench and try his hand at coaching. Guidolin spent 13 years coaching a number of different teams in a number of leagues, such as the Edmonton Oilers back in their WHA days, a couple of AHL teams, a couple of OHA teams, as well as 4 seasons in the National Hockey League, split between the Boston Bruins and the Kansas City Scouts, where he went as far as a Stanley Cup Finals appearance with the Bruins off the back of a 52-win season. Guidolin would finish his coaching career in 1984 with a 286, 352 and 75 lifetime record, and spent his days with his wife Eleanor and his 4 children, before passing away on November 24, 2008, at the age of 82. Though the circumstances that allowed him to join the NHL were certainly unique, Bep Guidolin holds a record that is virtually impossible to break, especially in the way that the league is ran today. The fact that he went on to play 9 seasons in the NHL, 16 total seasons as a pro, and then coach for 13 years after that, proves that the Boston Bruins made the right decision in picking Bep after all. And that's the story of the youngest NHL player in league history. What do you guys think about Guidolin's debut, as well as his overall career? Let me know in the comments below. I would love to hear what you guys think. But thank you very much for watching, guys. I hope you have enjoyed. Please feel free to like, subscribe, share, or watch some of my other videos. Thank you very much for watching, and goodbye. A big thank you to Chris Gadsby, Connor B, Jordan Whitehead, and Martin Tolness, as well as a huge thank you to Max Artists and The Legacy for helping support this video via Patreon. If you too want to help support the channel a little bit further and get a shout out at the end of every future video, make sure you head over to patreon.com/oddmanrush and become a patron today.